from a base coat of Night Lord's Blue, recess shade all of the armour panels with black Templar. Usually I would paint with black underspray and then paint by hand the undercoat, but in this case I actually used a new airbrush just to get down that first layer. Doesn't really improve on the final product, it just kind of accelerates the first step for base coating. Also, Night Lord's Blue is actually quite a dark colour to begin with, so this might not be as noticeable as in other schemes, but it really does add an impact when the entire armour is recess shaded. So just take your time with it and correct any overspill with Night Lord's Blue. The other thing is any areas that are going to be black, like the undersuit and the bolter or casing, you can just paint with this colour now and it'll save time a bit later. I also painted the areas that are going to end up being silver with black Templar as well as a base coat. Base coat all metal areas that are going to be silver with iron hand steel, so the shoulder pauldrons, the chest straps, the metal parts of the gun, and the bonding studs, in this case on the shoulder and on the knee. Shade all the silver areas with Nuln Oil. I decided then to repaint the bolter casing in Abaddon Black, but black Templar is probably fine, particularly if you're doing a squat. The first edge highlight then is with Kantor Blue, and this is just on all the raised edges on the armour. Kantor Blue is not noticeably brighter on a single pass with the Night Lord's Blue when you're painting it, but does actually set up well for the next layer of highlighting. Picking out more of the sharper edges then with a thinner edge highlight of Caledor Sky. As always, on sharp edges, use the edge of the brush as opposed to the tip where possible, such as on the sharp corners here on the backpack. Finish the armour then with dot and extreme highlights of Hoeth Blue, so the sharpest of corners, things like the rivets and the most noticeable details on the face. Highlight the black areas first using Eshin Grey. Edge of the brush where possible, but really in this it's a kind of long draw strokes of the brush. Also this can be corrected of course with Abaddon Black before going on to the second edge highlight. You can also pick out the sharper detail on the undersuit with Eshin Grey also. A dot or more extreme edge highlight then on the black with Administratum Grey, particularly on the bolter, things like the rivets. I didn't bother with the undersuit with this second colour, but you certainly could if you'd like, maybe more so for characters than troops. Edge highlight all the silver areas using Stormhost Silver, so the bolter, the strapping, the bonding studs and the shoulder pauldrons. For the red eyes, start by painting the entirety of the lens Mephiston Red, making sure there's a black outline in the recesses. Paint the front half of the lens with Evil Sunz Scarlet. Paint the front quarter of the lens then with Fire Dragon Bright. Paint a dot of Yriel Yellow at the very front of the lens. Paint a dot of white scar at the back of the lens to complete the effect. Now, I find lightning really difficult to paint. Here's my method. There's probably a better one out there. But pick out the pattern of the lightning kind of as irregular as possible with branching forks using Caledor Sky. Quite thin, just so it kind of doesn't really stick out as detail, but just as a marker for the Lex colours. Then, using Lothern Blue, kind of trace inside this line. You don't need to be complete with this. In fact, if it's a bit staccato, it probably looks more realistic. And just make sure to pull in all the different spokes or the forks of the lightning. To finish the lightning, I painted white scar in the parts closer to the top of the model and then at any junctures of the forks of the lightning. This I found quite difficult because the white paint ended up becoming more blob-like, so probably using some more heavy body paints might make this step a bit easier. And this is the finished result. If you like this video, feel free to check out the channel where I have more of the Horus Heresy and numerous other painting tutorials, and consider subscribing if you want to be kept up to date.